A cult is a group of people who follow a leader or a set of beliefs with strong loyalty. At first, a cult may look like a normal group or even a religion. People in the group may seem kind, welcoming, and friendly. They often promise happiness, peace, or a better life. But behind this friendly face, some cults can be very dangerous. Not all groups are bad, and not all strong beliefs are harmful. The difference between a normal religion and a dangerous cult is control. In a healthy group, people can ask questions, leave if they want, and think for themselves. In a dangerous cult, this is not allowed. Members are often told what to think, what to say, and even how to feel. They are not free anymore. Many people wonder why someone would join a cult. The truth is, anyone can be at risk. People who feel lonely, lost, or confused are often looking for meaning in life. A cult leader knows this and uses it to their advantage. They offer hope, love, and answers. They may say, "I understand you," or "I can save you." This can make people feel special and safe, at least in the beginning. Cults often use slow and careful methods to gain control. At first, everything feels normal. New members are treated very well. They are given attention and care. But over time, things start to change. The leader becomes more powerful. Rules become stricter. Members may be told to cut ties with family and friends. This makes them depend only on the group. Fear is another strong tool used by cults. Members may be told that leaving the group will bring danger or punishment. They may believe something bad will happen to them if they try to escape. This fear keeps them trapped. Even if they start to doubt the leader, they may feel too scared to leave. The leader of a cult plays a very important role. Many cult leaders are very good at speaking and convincing others. They may act like they have special powers or knowledge. Some even claim they are chosen by a higher power. Because of this, members trust them completely. They stop thinking for themselves and follow orders without question. One of the most famous examples of a deadly cult is Jonestown. It started as a group that promised equality and a better life. But over time, it turned into something very dark. What happened there shocked the whole world and showed how dangerous cults can become. But Jonestown was not the only case. There have been many other cults around the world that ended in tragedy. These groups followed similar patterns: strong leaders, strict control, and blind belief. In the next sections, we will look at some of these cults and the stories behind them. The story of Jonestown is one of the most shocking and tragic events in history. It began with a man named Jim Jones. At first, he seemed like a good person. He spoke about equality, helping the poor, and bringing people together. Many people trusted him because he talked about love and justice. His group was called the People's Temple, and it attracted hundreds of followers. In the beginning, the group did good things. They helped people who were struggling and gave them hope. This made many believe that Jim Jones was a kind and caring leader. But over time, things began to change. Jim Jones wanted more control over his followers. He started to demand complete loyalty. Members were expected to obey him without question. As time went on, Jim Jones became more paranoid. He believed that people outside the group were against him. He told his followers that the world outside was dangerous and full of enemies. Because of this fear, he decided to move his group far away from the United States. In 1977, he took hundreds of his followers to a remote place in Guyana. There, they built a settlement called Jonestown. At first, Jonestown was meant to be a safe place. It was supposed to be a community where everyone worked together and lived in peace. But life there was not as perfect as it seemed. The members had to follow strict rules. They worked long hours and had little freedom. Jim Jones controlled everything, from what they ate to what they believed. People who questioned him were punished. Communication with the outside world was very limited. Members could not easily leave. Many were afraid to even try. Jim Jones used fear and control to keep everyone in line. He also held long meetings where he spoke for hours, repeating his ideas and warning about enemies. Over time, people became more dependent on him and more afraid of the outside world. In November 1978, things took a terrible turn. A U.S. congressman named Leo Ryan visited Jonestown because he had heard concerns from families of the members. Some people at Jonestown asked to leave with him. This made Jim Jones very angry. As the group prepared to leave, violence broke out. The congressman and others were killed at a nearby airstrip. After this, Jim Jones made a deadly decision. He told his followers that there was no way out. He convinced them that dying together was better than facing the outside world. In a tragic event, over 900 people died in what is known as the Jonestown Massacre. Many were forced, and some were too afraid to resist. The world was shocked by what happened. It was hard to understand how so many people could be led to such a tragic end. The story of Jonestown became a warning about the dangers of blind trust and control. But even after this terrible event, other cults continued to rise. Jonestown was not the end. In fact, it was only the beginning of many more tragic stories that followed. After the tragedy of Jonestown, many people believed that such a disaster would never happen again. But years later, another strange and deadly cult appeared. This group was known as Heaven's Gate. Its story was very different, but it ended in a similar tragedy. The cult was led by a man named Marshall Applewhite and a woman named Bonnie Nettles. They believed that they were chosen to guide people to a higher level of existence. They taught that Earth was about to be recycled, and the only way to survive was to leave it behind. According to them, this did not mean using a spaceship made by humans, but a special journey of the soul. Their beliefs were unusual and confusing. They said that human bodies were just temporary containers. They believed that true life existed somewhere beyond Earth, in what they called the next level. To reach this place, a person had to give up all human attachments. This included family, possessions, and even personal identity. Members were told to let go of everything that made them human. At first, Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles traveled around, giving talks and attracting followers. They spoke calmly and with confidence, which made people listen. Some who felt lost or unhappy in their lives were drawn to their message. They believed they had found a purpose. Over time, a small but very loyal group formed around the leaders. Life inside Heaven's Gate was strict. Members followed many rules. They dressed the same, ate the same food, and lived together in isolation. They were cut off from the outside world. They were also encouraged to remove any emotional connections, even with each other. The goal was to become ready for the next level. After Bonnie Nettles died in 1985, many thought the group would end, but Marshall Applewhite continued leading the group. His ideas became even stronger. He believed that a sign would come to show them it was time to leave Earth. That moment came in 1997, when a comet called Comet Hale-Bopp appeared in the sky. Applewhite told his followers that a spaceship was traveling behind the comet. He said this spaceship would take them to the next level. But to board it, they had to leave their human bodies behind. This meant they had to die. In March 1997, 39 members of Heaven's Gate took part in a planned mass suicide in California. They believed they were not ending their lives, but moving on to a better place. They wore identical clothes and carried out the act in a calm and organized way. To them, it was not something to fear. When the world discovered what had happened, people were shocked once again. It was hard to understand how such beliefs could lead to death. Many asked the same question: how could so many people believe this? The story of Heaven's Gate showed that cults do not always use force or violence. Sometimes belief alone is enough to lead people into danger. And sadly, this was not the last time a cult would cause harm. Not all dangerous cults only harm their own members. Some cults turn their anger toward the outside world. One of the most terrifying examples of this is Aum Shinrikyo, a group that caused fear and death in Japan. The cult was started by a man named Shoko Asahara. He claimed he had special powers and could guide people to enlightenment. He said the world would soon face a terrible end and that only he could protect his followers. His words were convincing, and many people joined him, including highly educated professionals. They believed he was chosen by God or had divine knowledge. In the beginning, the group focused on spiritual teachings. Members meditated, studied, and practiced rituals. But over time, the teachings became darker. Shoko Asahara began promoting violence. He believed that attacking the outside world was necessary to survive the coming apocalypse. He convinced his followers that hurting others was justified if it helped the cult. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, Aum Shinrikyo became more secretive and dangerous. The cult started producing chemical weapons, including sarin gas, a deadly nerve agent. Members were trained to use these weapons. The group even carried out assassinations and other violent acts in Japan. The most infamous attack happened in March 1995. Members released sarin gas in the Tokyo subway system during the morning rush hour. Thousands of people were exposed to the poison. 12 people died immediately, and many more were injured. The city was thrown into chaos. Hospitals were overwhelmed, and people panicked as the gas spread. This attack shocked Japan and the world. People could not understand how a small group of followers could create such destruction. Aum Shinrikyo showed that cults could become extremely dangerous when leaders combined blind loyalty with violent ideas. The group's belief in an approaching apocalypse justified horrific actions in their minds. After the attacks, the Japanese government acted quickly. Police raided the cult's compounds, arrested leaders, and shut down the organization. Shoko Asahara was captured, tried, and eventually executed. Many followers were imprisoned, and some continued to live under strict surveillance. The story of Aum Shinrikyo was different from Jonestown or Heaven's Gate because it targeted innocent people outside the cult. It proved that dangerous beliefs can go beyond controlling members. They can threaten entire communities. The world realized that cults are not always harmless or secretive. Some can be deadly to anyone in their path. Aum Shinrikyo left a lasting impact on how governments and societies view cults. Laws were changed, and more attention was given to identifying and stopping dangerous groups. This cult is a warning that sometimes belief alone is not the only danger. Leaders who manipulate fear and promise salvation can turn that belief into violence. Even after Aum Shinrikyo, other cults around the world continued to emerge. Some focused on strict obedience, others on death, and some on both. The lesson from these tragedies is clear. Extreme loyalty and blind faith can be deadly, whether aimed inward or outward. Some cults focus not on violence against outsiders, but on controlling their own members completely, sometimes leading to death. One of the most mysterious and tragic examples of this is the Order of the Solar Temple. This group operated in Canada, Switzerland, and France, and it became known for multiple deaths linked to their beliefs. The Order of the Solar Temple was founded by Joseph Di Mambro and Luc Jouret. They claimed to have special knowledge about the universe and the future. The leaders told members that the world was corrupt and that only a select few could survive and reach a higher spiritual plane. Members were encouraged to dedicate their lives fully to the group, giving up their possessions, families, and ordinary life. Inside the cult, life was strict. Members followed rules set by the leaders and lived in isolated communities. They wore special clothing, participated in rituals, and were told that the leaders had the secret to eternal life. Members were expected to obey without question. Leaving the group was not seen as an option. It was believed that those who left would face misfortune or even death. The most chilling aspect of the Order of the Solar Temple was their focus on death. The leaders taught that death could be a passage to a higher spiritual existence. They promised that members who died faithfully would be reborn or transported to a better place. This belief led to a series of planned murder-suicides. In 1994 and 1995, over 70 members died in mysterious circumstances. Some were found in burning homes, others in remote locations. Many had been drugged or forced to participate. Among the dead were not only adults but children as well, highlighting the complete control the leaders had over their followers. Families who had trusted the cult were devastated. The secrecy of the group made it difficult for authorities to understand exactly what had happened at first. The deaths shocked the public. People were horrified that a group could convince so many to give up their lives willingly. The Order of the Solar Temple showed that danger in a cult does not always come from outward violence. Sometimes, the danger comes from the manipulation of faith and fear within the group. Members believed they were doing something noble and necessary, which made the tragedy even more profound. After these events, authorities investigated the cult and tried to understand how such control could happen. Survivors reported extreme psychological pressure, constant reminders of doom, and promises of a spiritual reward after death. The story of the Solar Temple served as a warning about how leaders could exploit fear, hope, and faith to deadly effect. Like other tragic cults, the Order of the Solar Temple left lasting lessons. It showed that leaders could manipulate beliefs so deeply that members would harm themselves and their loved ones. It reminded the world that dangerous cults do not always announce themselves. They can appear as peaceful spiritual communities until it is too late. Awareness, critical thinking, and education about the signs of a cult are essential to prevent such tragedies from happening again. The story of the Solar Temple is a chilling reminder that faith can be twisted into a tool for control and death, and that blind obedience to leaders can have devastating consequences. The stories of Jonestown, Heaven's Gate, Aum Shinrikyo, and the Order of the Solar Temple show a clear and worrying pattern. They remind us how dangerous blind faith, strict control, and charismatic leaders can be. Even though these groups were different, they all use similar methods to manipulate people and cause harm. Understanding these patterns helps us prevent similar tragedies in the future. One common factor in all these cults is control. Leaders demanded total loyalty and obedience. They decided what members could think, say, or do. In some cults, leaving the group was forbidden or even punished. Members were often isolated from family, friends, and society. This isolation made them more dependent on the leader and the group. Once people are cut off from outside support, it becomes easier for the leader to manipulate them. Fear is another tool cults use to control people. Leaders often warn that the outside world is dangerous or that bad things will happen if a person disobeys. In Jonestown, followers were told that leaving would bring death. In Heaven's Gate, the leaders warned that failing to follow them meant missing the next level. Fear keeps members from questioning orders, thinking independently, or leaving. Charismatic leaders are also a key part of deadly cults. These leaders are skilled at convincing people that they are special, chosen, or all-knowing. They speak confidently, offer hope, and promise solutions to life's problems. People who are lonely, unhappy, or searching for meaning are often more vulnerable to these claims. Once trust is built, followers are willing to believe almost anything. Another important lesson is the danger of extreme belief. Some cults, like Heaven's Gate, focus on ideas so strong that members willingly harm themselves. Others, like Aum Shinrikyo, take it further by harming outsiders. Belief, when combined with control and isolation, can become deadly. Even intelligent and educated people can fall victim when leaders convince them that their actions are justified. These stories matter because they are warnings. They show how important it is to think critically and question leaders. People should look for signs of control, isolation, and extreme rules in any group. Healthy communities allow questions, doubts, and freedom of choice. They do not demand total obedience or cut people off from the outside world. Education and awareness are key to preventing tragedies. Understanding the history of dangerous cults helps people recognize warning signs early. Families, schools, and communities can teach critical thinking, personal boundaries, and self-confidence. These skills make people less likely to be manipulated by cults or harmful groups. Finally, remembering these tragedies is important out of respect for the victims. Thousands of people lost their lives because they trusted leaders who abused their power. By learning from their stories, we can prevent similar events from happening in the future. These events are not just history, they are lessons about human psychology, belief, and the dangers of unchecked authority. In the end, the stories of deadly cults remind us that hope and faith can be powerful forces, but they must be guided by reason, freedom, and awareness. Blind obedience can be dangerous, and it is our responsibility to stay informed, cautious, and compassionate. Understanding the past is the best way to protect ourselves and others in the future.